Le récipiendaire du doctorat honorifique décerné cet après-midi incarne l'essence de l'innovation interdisciplinaire. Le professeur Edward Shortliffe a été l'un des premiers à reconnaître le potentiel de l'intelligence artificielle en médecine. He combined his expertise in these two fields, which were once considered completely unrelated, to imagine and create systems that improve medical decision-making for the benefit of patients and physicians alike. His research interests include the broad range of issues related to integrated decision support systems, their effective implementation, and the role of the Internet in healthcare. His remarkable career is punctuated by brilliant out-of-the-box thinking and innovation in the services of others, as well as long-standing dedication to educating the next generation of medical professionals. And now we will listen and watch to a short video summarizing Dr. Shortliffe's accomplishments.
Professor Edward Shortliffe is widely acknowledged as a global expert in biomedical informatics. But he didn't start off with medicine in mind. His initial training was in mathematics and computer science. Although he was born in Edmonton, Alberta, as a boy, he moved with his parents to the United States. He went on to earn an undergraduate degree in applied math and computer science at Harvard College in 1970, before completing a PhD in medical information sciences at Stanford University. Dr. Shortliffe a ensuite conjugué son génie en programmation informatique avec un grade en médecine et a obtenu son MD à Stanford une année plus tard. À ce point, il avait déjà anticipé que l'application de la technologie aurait pour effet de bonifier la médecine fondée sur des données probantes. Il a créé le système médical expert connu sous le nom de MySyn et a été le premier à reconnaître le potentiel de l'intelligence artificielle en médecine, dont l'application peut déranger, mais aussi sauver des vies. Edward Shortliffe's major contributions to the interdisciplinary field of medical informatics are reflected in his success as a book author and editor of several highly influential journals, including his current position as editor-in-chief of the Journal of Biomedical Informatics. He has also led several prestigious research programs and spearheaded the creation and evolution of graduate degree programs in biomedical informatics at Stanford, Columbia, and Arizona State Universities. Enfin, son leadership hors du commun illustre éloquemment son engagement au service des autres, notamment à titre de président du Journal Oversight Committee de l'American Medical Association, de président et chef de la direction de l'American Medical Informatics Association et de doyen fondateur du campus de Phoenix du Collège de médecine de l'Université de l'Arizona.
J'invite maintenant notre chancelier, M. Kalen Rovinescu, à venir prononcer la formule d'attribution du doctorat honorifique.
Dr. Shortliffe, à titre de chancelier de l'Université d'Ottawa, en vertu des pouvoirs qui me sont dévolus, je vous confère le grade de docteur de l'université avec le titre et tous les honneurs et privilèges qui y se rattachent. Dr. Shortliffe, as Chancellor of the University of Ottawa, by authority of the powers vested in me, I do hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of the University with the title, honor, and privileges that are proper to it. Thank you very much for being here today, sir.
Bonjour, je vous remercie la direction de l'université et les collègues à l'école Telfer et tous vous pour l'honneur qui a été accordé aujourd'hui. Je suis enchanté d'être ici. I'm honored and delighted to have this opportunity to say a few words to today's accomplished and esteemed group of graduating colleagues. I applaud your accomplishments. I trust you'll leverage what you've learned here at the University of Ottawa and the Telfer School, along with what you will learn in the future, to build careers and societal contributions that will make your parents and your professors and your alma mater proud. Now, it's customary for convocation speakers to send you off into the world with a few words of wisdom, but I'm not sure that I have much to add to what you've probably heard at other graduations in your lives, or what you've seen broadcast on television, commencement speeches by celebrities and world leaders. But I can assure you, unless you be concerned, that I am not going to sing a Whitney Houston tune today. Rather, I decided simply to try to leave you with one idea, one that maybe will stay with you, a notion that may already ring true, but perhaps is currently lacking the contextual detail that I'll try to provide. So I address you not only as a physician, as you heard, who is attracted to medicine by the usual notions of altruism and personal reward, but also as a computer scientist who has a positive view of digital technology. I'm accordingly not here to rail against technology today and its evils, although I have to say that I can understand the concerns that I've heard expressed by observers who've negatively assessed the effects of technology on society. I will comment shortly on technology and its influence within the context of my remarks, so we'll get back to that. But I want to start by telling you about a recent piece in the New York Times that intrigued me. It was written by David Lenhart. He's an editorialist with the paper, and he commented on a concept that he'd learned from George Shultz, the former United States Secretary of State. Evidently, Shultz is now 94 years old, still active. He's at the Hoover Institute on the Stanford campus in California. And he was known in his younger days for insisting on what became known as the Shultz Hour. He had found that he never had time for simply thinking. You know, the quiet contemplation that allowed for strategic thoughts and for creativity. So he scheduled at least 1 hour every week. He actually put it on his calendar. His assistants helped him to do so. And during that time, he would sit in his office, uninterrupted, with a pen and a blank pad of paper, and he'd simply think. Everyone knew he was not to be disturbed, and that hour allowed him finally some time to think about what he was doing, what was working, where his efforts should be directed, whether current activities should be rethought or even discarded. This notion reminded me also of some comments I once heard from a colleague at Stanford in the years I was there, Amos Tversky. Maybe you've heard of him. He once stated that the secret to doing good work is always to be at least a little bit underemployed. He argued that you waste years by not being able to waste hours. It's striking that such brilliant and accomplished people as Shultz and Tversky have recognized the importance of unprogrammed time. Now, I realize that you are all very busy. I suspect that will not change just because you've now completed your degrees. You'll still be very busy. It seems to be a characteristic of the modern world, with people trying to cram much more into each day than our ancestors ever would have imagined or thought possible. And I'm sure you've occasionally heard what's been called the humble brag. This is the notion from others who have shared just how busy they are and how much they are doing. But I suspect you also recognize from personal experience that constant activity is not a particularly enjoyable way of life. And it may not even be particularly productive. A bit of so-called laziness where you refuse to be constantly on the go and take some time for yourself and for contemplation, may help you to maintain a sense of well-being, while paradoxically enhancing your sense of being productive. I remember that during my doctoral work at Stanford in the 1970s, I was dealing with a particularly vexing issue. I had developed a scoring mechanism for dealing with uncertainty when simulating medical reasoning about diagnosis or therapy using a computer. And on my committee, my doctoral committee, was a professor who was unwilling to accept a scoring scheme like mine that seemed to be totally ad hoc, even though it worked or seemed to work. He said, "What are these numbers you're using? How do they relate to conventional probabilities? I can't sign off on your work until I hear those details." Well, I have subsequently been pretty grateful to him for his insistence on this matter, although at the time, you can imagine how I might have reacted. It required me to think long and hard about what I was doing. I discovered that sitting at a computer and programming or writing was not getting me anywhere. So instead, I scheduled a hot midday bath every day back at my apartment. I locked myself away with the door closed, and I soaked and I thought about this problem. By the second or third session, I found that I had to bring a pad of paper with me into the bathroom so that I could capture some of the details of the ideas that were forming. And ultimately, it was that series of hot baths that allowed me the creative time away from everything else to formalize the model I had developed and to be able to offer my committee answers that they were demanding. And this is where today's technology comes in, because it has amplified our tendency to be busy all the time. There was a day when a long airplane flight was a great time to think on your own. There was nothing else to do, maybe read a book. Today, the airline's entertainment systems or our own portable machines often demand our attention while we're traveling. We may use an entire cross-country trip to develop the slides for tomorrow's talk at a conference or a seminar or a sales briefing. As a New Yorker, I'm often sitting on a subway where essentially all the passengers, and I've noticed this consistently, are staring at their smartphones. They usually have ubiquitous white earphone wires trailing down to the device from their ears. And even when two people who are traveling together board the train, I find that they often focus on their phones rather than carry on a conversation with one another. We know it's common for people to reach for their phones the moment they wake up, taking in a barrage of news and tweets and emails and social media photographs. The technology is essentially always there, always available, and too often grabbing our attention. It affects sleeping patterns. It's influencing and distracting people from the very young to the elderly. Now, this editorialist, Lenhart, points out that our minds can be in one of two modes. They can be task positive or task negative, but they can't be both at once. When we're in task positive mode, we're active, we're doing our work, we're conversing with others, we're reading social media postings, we're following the news, and so forth. But we tend not to be planning, thinking creatively or strategically, being creative until we set aside time for our minds to actually be in this task negative mode. The Schultz hour is an explicit recognition that this is the case. You need to schedule task negative time. Those private, sacrosanct times are what we need, whether planning academic papers or coming up with new policy approaches, working on personal relationships, thinking about new business opportunities. Perhaps some of you will recall having heard about Pierre Trudeau's famous 1984 walk in the snow. That's when he went off for an evening walking in a snowstorm, and apparently that quiet time alone was what led to his decision to step down as prime minister and as head of his party. If you think back, I suspect you're going to recognize that you have already made use of such spontaneous task-negative opportunities. We sometimes joke that we wrote a paper in our heads while we were taking a shower, or we planned life events by taking long walks in solitude. But if you find that it's hard for you to squeeze a Schultz hour into your schedule, that may be a strong indication that you really need such time. So as you move out into your careers now, or to future education, as some of you are doing, think about scheduling a weekly Schultz hour or its equivalent. Take your smartphone and actually put it in a drawer for a few hours every day. Try not to fall asleep and awaken every day to a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone screen. Take care of yourselves, your minds, your ability to set aside the tempting and often overwhelming distractions of the day. It's worth the effort, and it can enhance both your personal and your professional lives. So I thank you again. I thank the university and all others who joined us today for your attention and also for the wonderful welcome you've extended to my wife and me here in Ottawa. Thank you very much.